Well, kicking off here into the 28th turn, 1625. We're almost at the halfway point. We had a few events happen. The biggest thing, in a sense, is the French and English kings died. And especially the French one led to somewhat of a decrease. Of course, they still have Richelieu in play. The English king, again, a moderate valued guy. Beyond that, exceptional year for England, epidemics for Spain. That's going to affect their income. Revolt of La Rochelle down here. I can't zoom without looking and paying attention, apparently. Protestants re-arising. A level 3 fortress. Some pirates in the French CTZ. This is kind of a tricky one because so long as English get to run it, so long as any of it's still alive, the English get 5 victory points a turn. Kind of like with the Russian revolts that are going on. They're allowed to intervene in it with up to 2 stacks. Yay! But they're already involved in a war and really probably can't afford to get themselves into this one. Remember, France was considering an attack on Spain, and this is an annoyance. But they may still go ahead with it because they've still got most of their army left. They can build more of it and head down towards Naples. Send half of their current army here into the Franche-Comté and the other half down to handle La Rochelle. They have a bonus for having Richelieu in charge, which historically he built kind of a wall around the port and was able to blockade it without ships. So they have that option. Of course, they probably want to get their navy here and try to deal with the piracy as well, though. And then there was a destabilization event that I rolled low enough on, it had no effect. But then the other event is the English Civil War. Now that can't happen because England's at war with Spain. But what it does indicate is England's going to be forced at the end of this turn to offer a white peace to Spain, poor Portugal being abandoned by the English. And then beyond that, and I don't know what that affects in terms of the princess or whatever, but beyond offering the white peace, it also, and I think that'll knock Portugal out of the entering war space, it also starts a number of events. Obviously, England's Catholic. It's not a Protestant revolt at all. It's just a parliamentary revolt no matter what. It doesn't change the religion of the country in any sense. It's kind of weird because I think in the original, if the Royalists won, England returned to Catholicism. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. It seems to just be a Royalist versus Parliament issue, which may be more historically correct and certainly more flexible. It also, though, brings out a revolt in Ireland, completely separate, and a war with Scotland, again separate. And whoever controls the Royalists, and I haven't figured that out yet, but this won't be triggered till next turn, is able to intervene in the English war. Obviously, other people can intervene on Parliament's side. What's weird here is the Royalists become the rebellion. Parliament becomes the main player. Trying to follow that historical flow, I guess. But that definitely throws some interest in terms of this looming event in the future, in the not too distant future. Because Spain certainly will take the white peace. They don't expect to gain anything off England. Alright, gotta make my decision with France. Okay, so for the diplomacy, France chose to go with it. I couldn't go against it. They've been planning for this. They're in good shape. Well, but they had to pay to stability, of course. And Spain paid a stability to bring the Habsburgs into the war. That complicates things. It definitely does. There's a decent-sized army sitting there now in Italy already. And quality under a good leader with Pappenheim. And then Gabor, oh no, that's Tilly. Gabor's over here. Another decent leader, not as good as Pappenheim in military, but a little more maneuverable. So the Austrians have a couple of good units, a couple of good stacks that they can operate with. That's going to cause some problems for France, no question there. Spain may be looking to mercenaries because my guess is they're already above their limit in terms of generals that they have. I think they only have 2 or 3. 2, I think. So they're going to lose this guy because of the Cardinal Infante. They have 2 good leaders, but they need at least 1 or 2 more because they're fighting on so many fronts. Of course, no, I was going to say, of course they can use Gabor, but that's not the case because there's enough Habsburg stacks that they can't pull him off. But maybe they'll get a Habsburg leader that they can pull over there. That's about it. There was the French brought Savoy into their political realm, but they couldn't bring them in yet. Maybe next turn. Ooh, wait a minute. There's other possibilities here. Scotland's a possibility. Yeah. Do we want to start the Scottish War early? Yes, we do. We want to take some effort off. So that's +2, +4 for closeness. I've got to break an 8. And I do that. So Scotland's going to come in on Spain's side as well. This is into the English war, not the French war. Alright. Scottish army actually raises a bit of a problem for the English because, well, not only is England empty right now, but for the English Civil War, the army gets divided in half. And so having a lot of troops means you're going to be facing more troops next turn. Of course, they also get a reinforcement roll and all that kind of stuff. But the English are going to have to build an army to face this. And they're also going to be probably in the market for mercenaries because they only have 1 leader. And clearly they're facing at least a two front war at this point. So, this is just one of the things that comes up. So if mercenaries appear, and last turn there were none available, people might have been buying them otherwise, they have to bid on them. Minimum bid's $10. Most turns, there are enough available if they're available. Usually countries only want 1 each. And most of the turns I've seen them available, that people wanted them, there's been 2 available, at least. But it's possible that on this turn that we're going to see a lot of the countries being very interested in them if they show up. We'll see. Right now, it looks like we're on to the income phase. Alright, well, we finished with the economic and administrative stuff for this turn. And I guess what we end up looking at, the French were able to build up an army, but not as big of one as they had before. They just don't want to dig that deeply into their economy. They wanted to keep enough money to keep the wars going. They've got loans out, I think. Spain is in even worse shape, though. They got leaders here and here dealing with the Portuguese and the English. They've got an army here without a leader. No mercenaries showed up. They're really kind of relying on the Habsburgs, Pappenheim and Gabor. Yeah, Gabor actually fought more against the Habsburgs as a Hungarian leader, but with Hungary as part of the Habsburg Empire, it's the only assumption. Otherwise, I don't know what to do with him unless some kind of national revolt showed up. Pressing the attack into Italy, no new troops in Naples. Spain couldn't afford an army, a new army. They had to pay for what they had up there. They want to finish Portugal off because they don't think they can really win a war against France. They think the best they can do is kind of drag this out. And of course, they've still got to maintain the army besieging Cusco, which still hasn't resolved itself. A lot of the players are hitting the dregs here. The Netherlands, this is really the first time that they're faltered this way. But Russia, obviously, still in the same position they were. Turkey's trying to build itself up so it can take the Mamluks out. It gets at least a boost in income once it takes this. Also, there's a lot of people, the French, the Dutch, the Turks, all interested, and maybe eventually the English, once they get some more padding in the rest of the world, all interested in the Mediterranean trade zone. In the long run, the English win everything. That's just a fact of the game. Their ability to do trade increases to a level that they can have every sea zone they want, basically. Maybe not to full monopoly, but they can certainly take the two major trading routes. I think nobody's still up to that 10 or more here. The Portuguese dropped below it, and there's just not a lot going on in India or in Asia. The Dutch managed to get themselves another trading post there. English built a colony down there, but they don't have the troops to go exploit against Spain. Basically, the fact that the English Civil War is going to start means that they do not want to really concentrate too heavily on Spain here. They know they're not going to win this war. They've got to offer a white peace at the end of the turn, so they can't even get anything. So that's about the extent of that. Alright, on to the rounds, I guess. Okay, quick summary of the first round now that we're done with it. Let's take a look first over here at the New World. French exploring down. Now this time they're targeting the Spanish trading post there. My camera's gotten much worse at zooming. It's kind of gotten old, and the little trigger is the same one I use for uploading stuff, so it's gotten kind of cranky. Spanish continuing to Cusco. We see French privateers down here. One interesting thing was Portuguese blockaded over here. We had a good Spanish leader trying to lead the gold back. Coming back, also ran through the English blockade here, got it in. Granted, there was some attrition loss, but still over 100 gold made it in, which is kind of impressive. So privateers spreading about. We're seeing piracy issues everywhere. The French should be dealing with this one. I forgot to send them out. I'm going to have to do some rolls there. What do we got? The French charged into Franche-Comté and laid siege to it down here. Over here they're moving closer to the rebellion. Here they moved into Milan in order to help screen that from the Habsburgs, whom they're also at war with. The English also screened Scotland, but the Scots didn't come down. The Habsburgs did come down. Pappenheim was driven off, but he caused a great deal of losses to the French. Now over here, the Spanish, the Cardinal Infante, was sacked after failing to completely wipe out the English-Portuguese combined army. And what's worse, he can't even siege. He doesn't have enough forces left after having done it. He actually beat them, and got the victory points and the mods for that, but he didn't actually maintain enough of his own force. He took some damage. So we're kind of hoping on one last thing under Spinola here to be able to handle this. That army was destroyed, of course. I think I already mentioned that. Over here, Russians have moved up. I forgot to move these for the English. I'll take care of that as well. Swedish army knocked the Poles back from here, but then they were so wiped out that the Poles came in and finished them off, and there wasn't much left. Okay, I got a couple of things to clear up because I'm having a hard time getting back into the flow of this. Well, the second round almost ended the turn. Rolled a 2 on it, just a little short. But we got the French establishing the siege of La Rochelle. They lost their commander there. Continuing here, they pulled back from Milan, and Pappenheim has moved in and established a siege. Spaniards, if Spinola has finished up Oporto, now he has some trouble because he can go through Estremadura and then into Algarve to avoid having to do the river crossing. He's got to take all 3 territories. And the more I think about this, he can't accept that white peace surrender offer from the English. He's got to continue the war with England as well, because England is the major power tied to Portugal. If he takes the white peace, it's going to end that war. So the English Civil War isn't guaranteed to happen anytime in the near future. Basically, they can fight out this Portuguese situation. Everywhere else, not a lot happening. The Russians are kind of in some trouble because they don't have a lot of money to complete the siege here. The Portuguese, or the Polish, don't have very good chances of completing theirs. Way back here, Cusco, still holding out somehow. Alright, another close run on the round, this time rolling a 3. And because the Portuguese back their leader, they don't have a general, in fact, or an army. They got their leader back. They don't have an army to put him on. He'll lead the remnants of the English force there. That's down to 1 cav. It's pretty much useless, to tell you the truth, and they'll probably be withdrawing into a fortification, even though that makes a fortification weaker, actually, to a siege. Although if it's assaulted, it makes it slightly stronger. Spinola slipped around and in and destroyed the English army, but the combined Allied army, but he still got defeated in the sense that he couldn't stay there, because whoever has supply gets to stick around. Habsburgs slid down here into the Italian territories as the French are continuing to work on this siege. They still a revolt in place. I just can't see it because it's stuck to the thing. Got this navy out here. I don't actually need it there. Sail that back into port so I don't have to roll any more attritions, because of the Richelieu rule allows it. Spaniards finally took Cusco. It looks like they're still sieging it, but they're not. That's not the end of the Incas, but it reduces them to 30 in each space. They've got 2. They need 3 more spaces to finish them off. French are easing their way down to that fort. They're not going to be able to get the monopoly in furs because of the Russian holdings here. So they may actually not want to just burn it. On the other hand, who knows? Alright. And this is kind of interesting. There are no furs actually listed in Florida, but the errata gives them 1 there. I guess they're crocodile furs. That's really about it. The Russians got knocked back out of Novgorod, and that's going to fall again. Basically, they don't have the money to start another siege, so they're kind of forced to just defend what they have. Alright, turns ending at the end of 4 rounds. Going back over here, Cusco actually fell to an assault rather than siege attrition or whatever. Valdivia has ended up taking 1 more territory. Here's the problem, though. This is, I believe, the turn he dies. He's off the map at the end of this. Unless the Spaniards have someone else. They don't, I don't think they get a conquistador. If they get a base default one, they can start clearing out the rest of this. But it's going to be tough for them to finish this war without a conquistador in place. Elsewhere, these other sieges are underway. This one's going to be broken. This one gets to continue. This one's broken, but this one just barely continued. The French were probably going to try to break it up with their army otherwise. Portugal has been left open. The English withdrew their cav from there. Nothing really changed much. Anyway, I'll come back at the end of all this, but it's very unlikely that the English Civil War gets sparked next turn, simply because they're stuck in this Portuguese war, and Spain's not going to allow them out of it without a Portuguese surrender. Okay, so we push into the 1630 turn, and this is not a Latin advance turn. What I have to kind of remember here is the Swedes, because Gustavus Adolphus came in, have actually just pushed into the Baroque period. It's the earliest it can really happen. They get to jump right into there. Even the Latins probably aren't going to make it there, and they certainly won't in this game. In fact, they're rather far advanced compared to just the way things sort of fell out. They're towards the lead of the pack, which is kind of strange. Usually someone in my games is pushing the technology for at least the Latin technology. The Turks usually have fallen behind, as they have here, often not so badly as they have here. Alright, what about pieces and such not? So one of the big things was Russia collapsed. Now this is not too bad because Russia's doing so badly. Normally they would lose a bunch of DTI, a whole bunch of bad things happen to them, but they're kind of at the minimum and there's nothing they could lose. They were down at the bottom at stability because they didn't name an heir. They got bumped up, and that was over. Now, that didn't end the Swedish war. And in fact, Poland was at war with Sweden as well. However, they got a very lucky roll. They got a 10 on it. Next turn, they would have been in an enforced surrender had they stayed in the war, because they would have been bumped back down. So, and they would have spent 3 turns there, which is different from everyone else. I didn't utilize any bonuses from what the Poles were doing, but they needed a natural 10 and they got it. And that was good enough. They got a white piece out of it, which actually should have boosted them up another level. We'll put them up there. And we owe Russia a victory point, I think. Alright. Not sure, because I'm not sure I penalized them enough. Alright. Elsewhere, well, Spain couldn't get a peace with Portugal. France couldn't get one with the Habsburgs. England couldn't get one with the Scots. La la la. But France and Spain almost came to a peace. It would have been a peace of level 4. And the discussion that was on the table was Franche-Comté, the trading post, which only counts as a half point, but because there weren't 2 trading posts, there's nothing else to give, and $100, which is the payoff for that 3rd province at level 4. That would have been a fairly light escape for Spain. They may have wanted to do that. Because they didn't go to peace, though, they ended up, well, their war with England is the more painful. But they ended up dropping down kind of far. The French bounced up and recovered their ground. So they're still doing okay. But France would have really loved to get out of this war. They're a little worried about what the Habsburgs are going to be able to do over here in Italy. They've got the La Rochelle issue. If they could have gotten out of it with Franche-Comté and stuff, whatever the stuff is, they were pretty happy. They probably wouldn't have wanted the peace of level 4 without the deals, but on the other hand, Spain couldn't afford it without the deals. They would have gone bankrupt. So it was in everybody's interests to make sure that properties exchanged hands. On Spain's side, well, now they're still fighting France, and it could be a worse peace later. So it may be it may have been to their advantage to have accepted that peace, even though it would have hurt them. It would have definitely hurt them. This may hurt them more in the future. Anyway, got the new leaders out. Anything key fall away? I don't think anybody too important died. Well, Valdivia, who, I don't know how I'm going to do this without a conquistador, but hopefully we'll pull something out. Does Spain have one? That's the big question. Here's the Russian new leader, a 645. Spain does not get a conquistador anymore. Just 2 generals, 2 admirals. So I don't know how they're gonna be able to do that. They don't have generals who are rest of the world guys. They're going to just be blundering around there in this continuous war. And that costs them a stability each turn if they're not in any other wars. Again, a little fudging to fit things. Alright, up this one goes. All the heroes of the 30 Years' War showing up. Adolphus, with nothing really to do. Hey, maybe the French can bring them into their war. Now that they're not in a war, they're actually not that far. Well, normally they're actually pretty close to Spain. They don't have a penalty, but at this point, 1, 2, 3 sea zones away, they're going to have the penalty for distance. So the chances are pretty low. There's no Habsburg territory close enough to them, I don't think. Oh, yes, there is. They can declare war on the Habsburgs. Yeah, they can enter this. Interesting. And that would be a definite blow to Spain. Something I didn't think about. All right, up it goes.